Welcome, everybody, to the Realm of Ridiculous, where we talk about Warhammer, but like in the olden stuff. And before we get started on this episode, if you enjoy this podcast, go ahead and check out patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you can find awesome bloopers if they happen, Discord access, as well as some awesome HD posters. We recently had a couple just come out on the Uma Musume Krieg posters, basically combo thing there, legally distinct, etc. They're doing numbers on the social medias, so
yeah,
that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's quite something.
That is a game that has taken a few dollars from me. So please buy the poster.
Have they now?
A couple, nothing crazy, but you know, it's a minor addiction, I'd say.
Oh, only a minor addiction, naturally.
Yeah, of course, nothing serious. Yes, anyway, yeah, buy the poster.
But yes, check out the poster. You can also check it out at orchidate.com. Link in the description. And then all the other good stuff. DK, how are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. I feel like people watching this are going to be expecting an epic saga of an episode, and this almost feels like it's going to be. Remember how you did the Dante episode, and you had to really kind of front load it?
Yes, same deal.
Same deal today. And once you get the quote and the episode, you'll know. So, Bricky, you ready for the quote?
I am very much ready for the quote, yes.
Today, your quote is, "Not that I have anything against senseless violence, manling, but why exactly are you strangling that old man?"
Okay. Manling.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have anything against senseless violence, manling.
Manling. But why exactly are you strangling that old man? Possum found this quote, thought it was really funny. I'm so glad they found it and had to use this one.
Is the faction the manling, or is the faction the person saying it?
Manling is one speaker talking to another person. So it's sort of them referring to someone else as a manling. So it's kind of, yeah, like Shai said, it's kind of a slur for a human.
Right. But is the topic we are on about the manling or about the speaker?
The speaker. I guess
it's about the speaker. Okay.
Yeah.
Too eloquent for anything orc related.
Fair. So fair.
It's not Cathay, because they're also, in a sense, human, right?
Yeah, and I don't think their codex has come out yet anyway.
Oh, right, we're waiting for the codex. What do we have left? I don't know what we have left. I can cheat and look up the faction list.
Actually, I don't think looking up the faction list will help you.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I don't know. We're past factions?
Yeah, we're kind of past factions. So Grand Cathay is the last faction we really need to do, but since the codex hasn't come out yet, kind of got to wait on that.
Manling, strangling man. I'm assuming something big. I'm going to assume like a big character, like a troll or something of that nature.
Well, it is definitely a character episode. I'll give you that.
All right, I got nothing. Hit me with it.
Today we are doing Gotrek and Felix.
Oh, the duo. Oh,
no
wonder you want to be like, hey, everyone, don't freak out if we don't talk about everything, because we know this is your favorite character ever.
Yeah, the infamous duo, Gotrek and Felix. And yeah, we do kind of have to front load it with, look, they have a lot of books. They have a lot of stories. We can't cover them all today. I think I cover one story, but this is sort of your introduction to how Gotrek and Felix find each other, why they travel with each other, that sort of shtick. So this is the front loading that I need to do. If we don't cover your favorite little thing from Gotrek and Felix. Don't worry, there's probably going to be more Adventures of Gotrek and Felix episodes because, good lord, there simply just have to be. So,
how many books do they have?
Oh, too many?
Really? Is this like a Gaunt's Ghost thing where they're on like book 20 or something? 23 books?
Yeah, it's a lot.
What the hell?
They go on a lot of adventures.
Okay, I see it now. All right. Then in that case, this'll we'll definitely try to open up what we normally talk about whenever we talk about Adric, which is Adric is meant to get you to, if you are curious, into more bits. So this is obviously a learning thing for people who are fans of Gotrek and Felix, but also a episode where if you like the shenanigans of the episode, you can go ahead and get it going.
Yeah, check out some of the books. I mean, even Possum is just like, their stories are outstanding. They're like an awful lot of fun. He highly recommends reading as many as you can. And everybody's got a favorite Gotrek and Felix story. Also, their names are Gotrek Gurnisson and Felix Jaeger.
And they are a human and dwarf.
Yes, it is a human and a dwarf, as we will learn.
Which one is which?
Gotrek is the dwarf, and Felix is the human.
That sounds about right. I mean, Gotrek sounds like a dwarf name.
Yeah, Gotrek sounds like a very big, like, fantasy name, and Felix is just like, yeah, my cousin Felix.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Maybe a felonid, right?
Oh, yeah, you PewDiePie. Sorry.
I was thinking Felix the cat, like the black and white clock. Felix the cat, but that works too.
I do my best. Anyway.
So naturally, like I said, before we talk about any of their legends, we need to know exactly who Gotrek and Felix are. And starting with Gotrek, you might assume that Gotrek, being a dwarf, has always sort of been this venerable warrior. And it's like, oh man, he fell on hard times and was forced to become an iconic slayer. You'd be sort of right, but mostly wrong. Because Gotrek actually started out basically as a dwarf of science and invention. He was an inventor and a craftsman and an engineer. He was born in 2370 IC, that is the imperial calendar that they use and sort of keep history. He was born in Karaz-a-Karak, which is the ancient dwarf capital city. We've talked about it like a couple of times. He did do his mandatory military service in his youth, and the details about his time as an engineer are a little scarce. There's not a ton known about his time as an engineer, and the sort of scarce tales that have been told or the remembrances of it are a little exaggerated, so nobody really knows a ton about the time he spent as like an engineer and an inventor. He was once part of a prince, the Prince Vastrian, had a band of soldiers, I think called the Vanquishers. I think it's like his personal guard or something. But due to them being dissolved, Gotrek kind of becomes just a wandering adventurer. And one day, he is sent out on an expedition into the Chaos Wastes, which, as you might be able to tell from the name, not a super fun place to go to, not a super fun place to get sent to. More or less, he is tasked with the protection of this big expeditionary force led by a dwarf named Boric Forkbeard. Gotta love us some dwarf names, right?
I mean, dwarf and orc names are almost just as like subtle.
Yeah, they're very, very beard drinky. Yeah. And this expedition was actually, even though it's going into the Chaos Wastes and it's just yikes, it was probably like a super noble thing that Gotrek was like more than honored to go and like, oh, of course, I'll protect me, people. Because it's like this convoy of like super heavy steam weapons, and their whole goal on this expedition is to retake this lost hold called Karagdum. It was taken over by, I'm assuming, Chaos, because it's in the middle of the Chaos Wastes. And Possum notes, if I had $1 for each time a famous fantasy series had a dwarven hold that began with a K and ended with a doom that was lost to the forces of evil, I'd have $2 whole. It's not that much, but it's a little weird that it's happened twice.
I find it humorous because you said it kind of like the announcer in Dune 2. You had a very like gotta Dune like non kind of thing, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hamburger.
Have a cheeseburger, Whopper. Have a cheeseburger. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Possum also wanted to make a note that as far as like the quotes go in this episode, a lot of their past is told through the two of them sort of reflecting on what happened as opposed to like directly experiencing it. So a lot of our quotes are going to be a little more foreshadowy and stuff like that. Like essentially here's a quote of how Boric recounts the past with like Felix. He looked down to an abandoned vehicle and the empty tombs, and his earlier sadness returned redoubled. Those things had stood there for nearly 20 years, and the only other eyes that had looked upon them were those of chaos worshippers and monsters. He truly wished that he had not come here. Near here are the caves where Gotrek found his axe, Boric said softly. Is that so? Was the failure of your expedition the reason why Gotrek became a slayer? No, that happened later. Boric smiled sadly, then looked at him, opened his mouth as if to speak, and then, as if realizing that he had already said too much, closed it again. Felix wanted to ask more, but it came to him that if the old dwarf didn't want to speak, there's no way to make him do so.
So they're like trying to get a dwarf to do anything.
I know. Well, drinking is probably pretty easy to make a dwarf do.
True, and grudging.
Oh yeah, they love a good grudging. It's going in the book. So yeah, they're obviously very, very foreshadowy about how their trip into the Chaos Wastes go. But it's the Chaos Wastes, so you know, it's a really tough spot to traverse through. The Chaos Wastes are ever changing. Like they're up in the north, so you would assume it's like, you know, a frozen hellscape, and it's just really hard to traverse because everything's so cold. But the Chaos Wastes are just it's just a lot of chaos bullshit. And so the Chaos Wastes are ever changing. Like as you're going through them, they could be really cold, but then it'll suddenly get really swampy, and then it'll get like really hot, and then it'll get like really cold again. So it is a nightmare to traverse through this ever-changing chaos landscape.
Oh, it goes. It's in the name, I guess.
It is what it says on the tin, right?
Chaos and wastes.
Yep. And so while trying to traverse this, the convoy gets really bogged down trying to just navigate through this chaotic hellscape. And since it's full chaos energy all over the place, you have people that are just randomly mutating and going apeshit. You gotta fight him, you gotta put him down. People are dying of dehydration, starvation, like I said, just general chaos tomfoolery. And eventually it gets to the point where this big convoy has now shrunk down to just one wagon. There's just one, it's not really a convoy anymore, it's just a wagon. Gotrek and Boric Forkbeard are still alive, and there's only one other person with them. It's someone named Snorri Nosebiter, who apparently pops up quite a bit in the Gotrek and Felix stories. Possum says they show up rather famously and rather infamously. So Snorri Nosebiter kind of sounds like a grot name to me, so take that for what you will. But their one last wagon, the one last thing they're protecting, the one thing that they are just futilely and hopelessly pushing further on in the Chaos Waste to protect as they push and just, well, maybe we'll make it. Of course, that one last wagon gets attacked and destroyed by an ambush from a roving band of beastmen.
So we've lost a little bit of purpose here.
We sure have. The convoy is just destroyed. Only 3 of them are alive. And finally, at this point, they're like, lads, this expedition is toast. Let's just piss off, go back home. This is so... It's just so Jover. So they finally turn themselves around, and they're trying to retreat out of the wastes, and out of nowhere, because it's the Chaos Wastes, a big old fuck you storm materializes out of nowhere, and it completely separates Gotrek from the two other survivors. Gotrek manages to take shelter in this dank, dark, cold cave, and as he's sort of finding shelter here, of course, he's attacked by more beastmen. Gotrek fends them off as best as he can. He's putting up his dukes. He's doing the old 1-2. He's retreating deeper into the cavern as more and more beastmen come after him. It's not looking great for Gotrek. It's looking real bad. But as luck would have it, in this cavern, as he retreats deeper and deeper, he finds the bones of an old dwarven prince. And in the hands of the skeleton of this dwarven prince, surrounded by the bones of just innumerable beastmen and demons, in the bones' hands and its skeletal little fingers is an ancient axe carved with runestones, and it is just brimming with power. You can feel it just tingling your skin. And if you remember our dwarven lore, this axe that Gotrek has stumbled upon is actually the axe carried by Grimnir himself, dwarven god of war. It is one of his axes.
Wait, the main dude?
Yeah, this is Grimnir's axe that has been passed down through generations, seemingly lost up until this point.
That's wild. I didn't expect Gotrek to have something so important.
Yeah, he has the Rune Master axe, the God of War axe, Grimnir's axe. Wah! And as you can imagine, with such an insanely powerful weapon, Gotrek proceeds to rip and tear through all the beastmen that were chasing him like a hot knife through butter. And with this strength, Gotrek is finally making his way back home. He cuts through the Chaos Waste. I'm not going to say easily, but he is able to just slice and dice his way through the Chaos Waste until he finally gets back home. And when he gets back home, he's expecting, I can finally rest. I'll go to wife and child. This is going to be a great time. Unfortunately, however, his town was in ruins, burned to the ground. While Gotrek was gone, his village was raided and burned by goblins. When he returned home, he found his wife and young child were dead. So, after his wife and child are dead, he
are dead. Yeah. I
wasn't sure how to segue that. It's just, he's not having a great time.
Clearly he's struggling. He's having a rough one.
And I'm not exactly sure how he comes to this part, but he finds himself arguing with the dwarf lord in their sort of throne room. And here's sort of the direct quote of what happens. The hall of a dwarf lord, Gotrek Gurnisson, was there once more, arguing passionately with a long-bearded noble on the throne. There was a sneer on the noble's lips. He spoke mockingly, it seemed, and then made a chopping gesture with his hands, perhaps forbidding Gotrek to do whatever it was he wished to do, perhaps even ordering his death. The other dwarf shook his head and grinned darkly. The lord ordered his troops to seize the axe bearer. It was a mistake. A vast brawl began. Soon, everyone in the hall, save for Gotrek, was dead or fled. Dwarf corpses were lying everywhere. The dwarf took up a knife and hacked away at his hair. Soon his head was shaved bare, save for a small, rough strip. He strode out into the world to do whatever it was he had to do.
So he's okay. I guess that kind of makes sense why it's Gotrek and Felix on their own adventures.
Yeah.
Because at least for Gotrek's sake, he is he got the shit end of the stick, and now he's kind of you know what, screw this crap, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, I'm not sure exactly what he was trying to convince the dwarf lord that he wanted to do, but yeah, he has just killed a noble dwarf, a bunch of dwarfs, and when he comes to that realization, he's like, "Oh boy, this is bad." And he's sort of at that point. That's when he's like, "Well, I guess I got to become a slayer. Like, I have just shamed myself and my ancestors in one of the greatest ways possible. Like, this is a huge fuck up on my part. Like, I really let my anger get the better of me," which Gotrek is known for having some wild anger issues, obviously. And so he hacks his hair into that iconic sort of Slayer mohawk and decides, well, I gotta make amends for this. I am now a Slayer, and it is what it is. And Shai says, as far as I can tell, his background is told through a vague vision, so there's no explanation who the Lord was and what the argument was about. Yeah,
I guess it's a lot less of importance, I would suppose.
Yeah, it's more important what he did during the argument and after the argument, rather than like what the argument was about.
Is he like, what's the word I'm looking for? Is he like regretful of this?
Oh yeah, because this is the moment that he's like, well, I have to become a slayer. Like I've shamed myself, I've shamed my family. In my rage, I just killed all these dwarves and this dwarven lord, and this is the thing. He's like, well, I'm gonna become a slayer and I'm gonna die, and that's gonna be my sort of penance and my retribution for my sin. So I think he's genuinely remorseful that he did it.
Okay, because I couldn't quite tell, just because it seemed like the Lord was a shithead.
True, he was still a Lord, and well, the Lord was a shithead. Everybody else in the room, though, like he kills everybody.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like they were trying to like seize him and stuff.
True, they were, but yeah, I think it's safe to say he's genuinely remorseful that he did it.
All right, fair point then.
That's sort of the quick rundown on Gotrek, how he becomes a Slayer. So we'll get back to him a little bit, but now we kind of gotta have our quick little rundown on Felix, who was born in roughly 2482 IC. Again, that's Imperial calendar. And Felix is a little easier of a rundown because Felix's past is he's kind of that kid that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth a little bit. He was born to a super wealthy, well-off merchant family, had a pretty above average most of his life up until this point, and he actually became a poet at the University of Altdorf, the capital of the empire. His father is Gustav Jaeger, who was a very famous wool merchant. The name of their mercantile house was Jaeger and Sons. Felix's mother died when he was still just a young boy. His father had paid for exclusive educations for his sons so they could build the name of the mercantile houses up to the point where it became a noble house. But Felix is a rebel. And like most rebels, Felix decides, instead of this merchant education for the family, and I don't really want to be a wool merchant, so he decides, like most rebels, this is all possum, and like most rebels, he decides that becoming a creative writing major and pretending that he read Ulysses to impress the ladies, bought that Neutral Milk Hotel album on vinyl, and drank Sierra Nevada IPs. He's just built different. You know, he doesn't have to follow in his father's footsteps. He's his own unique individual. And so he does all this stuff. His father, obviously not a big fan, because he's like, what are you doing? Like, we have a ridiculously successful wool enterprise. I will pay for you to learn how to upkeep it, how to live on my legacy, how to get all the money you could ever want. What are you doing? I am not a huge fan of this, like, you want to be a poet at the university? What is wrong with you? So his father, not really happy. And so Felix at the university is a poet. He's sort of dreaming, as most creative writing majors do. This is all hitting way too close to home as a creative writing major myself. He dreams of writing the next great adventure tale, the next epic tale that will be told through all time and be recited to children as one of the greatest stories ever told. This is Felix's sort of motivation. This is what he wants to do. And for Felix, everything is going according to plan. He is poeting his ass off at the university until, well, Felix kinda, sorta, accidentally kills someone.
Wait, what?
Well, he kinda, sorta, accidentally kills someone. So, Felix, as a poet, creative writing major, is known to be a little bit of a showboat. He likes to show off, and he loved having duels in his youth. Loved it. He's got that flair for the dramatic. And it was genuinely an accident during a sparring duel, and he accidentally kills a student named Wolfgang Krasner. And while it might have been just a mistake and it was a duel that they both agreed to, obviously, you killed a man, so he gets immediately expelled from the University of Altdorf.
Oh, right, because not arrested or nothing, because it was a duel, but he killed someone.
Yeah, and also, the very wealthy family that we were just talking about also cut him loose of the inheritance because, of course they did, he literally just killed someone. So he is just 100% disinherited. His father casts him right the fuck out, refuses to take him back under any circumstances. His son has tarnished the family name and has pretty much put the father's goal of becoming a noble house in complete jeopardy, if not just outright killing it. So at this point, Felix is a drifter. He has no drive, no purpose. It was an accident. He did only mean to wound the student, but again, that doesn't matter. You killed him. It doesn't matter if you only meant to wound him. That man is dead. And so the next time we hear about Felix is when he is, how you say, instigating riots.
Wait.
Which...
No, this dude's character arc is going really up and down. Okay.
He's going through it, yeah. And to be fair, the reason he's starting the riots is actually kind of based because there's this pretty bullshit thing happening at the time called the window tax, which is exactly what it sounds like. Your ass gets taxed depending on how many windows your crib has. And it actually goes a little harder than that. And so this whole window tax thing is a reference to something that actually happened during the 100-Year War in England. This tax was supposed to be specifically for like glass windows. So it was supposed to hurt the wealthy substantially. And it resulted in like this big domino effect leading to like the War of Roses. But in Altdorf, in Warhammer Fantasy, this tax was different. The intention of the window tax in Altdorf was to tax the rich because they're the rich. Obviously, they're wealthier than you. They're going to have more windows. You know, this will be a good way to get some income coming in.
Me, an extremely wealthy streamer, deciding to make a giant mansion that's just a fucking black cube with no windows. Tax this shit, England.
Well... we'll talk about that. So, the window tax in Altdorf, actually, the problem with it is it didn't specify glass like the actual one. It stated that any hole in a residence, no matter the size, was considered to be a window. So this resulted in sort of this really obtuse taxing on the poor due to the poor having more holes in their walls for just, not even for window purposes, they were just for ventilation, for just basic comfort. It's like, that's not a window, that's just a vent because it's too goddamn hot in here. And also the tax was a silver piece for every window, which if you are like a peasant or just a normal person is absolutely batshit.
Wait, are you telling me that the English were doing taxation without any representation?
You know, Bricky, I am.
I am shocked.
To your core.
My core.
Writing this, I was like, there's no way this would fly in real life. There's got to be some mistake. And apparently in Warhammer, you can avoid this window tax if you just straight up brick over your windows. If you just over the window, it's like, oh, we can't tax you because that's not a window anymore.
Oh, hell yeah, my cube.
Your cube is fine. You won't get taxed for your cube. You can also just bribe an official. And apparently what a lot of nobles did was they just sort of pretended like they didn't actually own their house. Which sounds weird, but from what I read about this, it's sort of like this bullshit where the nobles were like, well, actually, I inherited this house from my ancestors. And there's not, my ancestors are so old, and that was so long ago, that was so many generations ago. There's really no record of them buying the house. And so if there's no record that it belonged to them and I inherit it, technically you can't tell me that I own this house and that I need to pay the tax on it. Can't tax me on what I don't technically own, right? Get stuffed, government. And those would be some of the ways you could avoid, air quotes, the Altdorf window tax.
Okay, and so was Mr. Felix protesting the rich's ability to do this? Or, because it was like a riot of sorts, right?
Yeah, I think he's just rioting the window tax, period.
It's just the existence of it?
Yeah, it's kind of a bullshit thing to be like, yeah, we're taxing you for your windows.
Okay, so he's like, oh, you're taxing us like crazy, but all the rich people are finding ways around it.
Yeah.
God, I'm so glad I don't live in that world.
Yeah. It's not even my house was an argument to IRS, but armed agents storming my house wouldn't listen. Fair. Anyway, so Felix is starting like these riots because also you got to remember that at this point in time, Felix has no ambitions. He's kicked out of Altdorf, the University of Altdorf. He can't really write his grand epic poem. He's not this famous person yet. So this becomes his ambition. This becomes his drive. He starts like submitting petitions with others who opposed it, and then they start organizing these like just major protest marches. But like there's so much anger and passion, and there's just so much of this stuff boiling over that Felix can't really control these big marches that he's starting. And since there's so much anger, they just sort of flood over into these big riots. And so in all of these riots, fighting starts, and they get so bad that the Emperor himself, Karl Franz himself, and his royal guard from Reichland had to divert from what they were doing to come to Altdorf to stop this madness. And so now you have, the Reichsguard are getting in on all these riots, and they're trying to stop them, and it's chaos in the streets. And Felix, in these riots, is about to get his ass run down by a knight who is just cavalry charging his horse through the masses, as you do, I guess. And it's looking like Felix is about to get run down. He is going to get his ass run down. He's going to die. But who should save Felix from his doomed fate? Why, none other than good old Gotrek.
The hell is Gotrek doing there?
I mean, Gotrek just kind of found himself here. Just happenstance more than anything. He's just kind of wandering now. He's just kind of doing his Slayer thing. He's just looking for like the most crazy fight where he can die, So I think it's just happenstance.
Okay, well, he's doing Slayer stuff. He's just doing the murder hobo, and he's just like, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah, he's just doing the murder hobo.
I guess I don't know how far away that is from like the Dwarven stuff. So
Actually, that's a good question. How far is Altdorf from?
No. The Games Workshop does not understand travel logistics or maps. We
Or
can
numbers
just skip that.
in general.
We can just skip that whole part. Don't worry about it.
That's so true. And in the process of rescuing Felix, Gotrek cuts his way through an unknown number of Reichsguard. Gotrek's recounting of the event of saving Felix as the manling thought it clever to put his case to the emperor with petitions and protest marches. Old Karl Franz chose to respond, quite sensibly, with cavalry charges. Plus, considering how Gotrek had handled royalty in the past, when he killed the Dwarven Lord and everyone in there, it's pretty clear why Gotrek was like, oh, man, why y'all are doing protests and marches? Y'all know that you can just use an axe and kill people, right? You can just, axe does a lot more talking than just some dumb riot.
Me giggling to myself, preparing to say, man, I'm glad I don't live in that world again for the third time.
I saw hitting just a little too close to home, eh?
Thank God this is fiction.
I know. Thank God. As for what happened specifically, as far as like how many Reichsguard that Gotrek killed, we don't really know outside of a few semi-drunk conversations, and that Felix doesn't really feel compelled to get into circumstances due to this oath that he takes with Gotrek. We know that Felix was knocked down when the cavalry arrived, and Gotrek saved him. And in Felix's own words, of course, the Imperial cavalry were no match for my companion's axe. Such carnage! Heads, legs, arms, everywhere. He stood on a pile of bodies. In another story, we do get a specific number of lancers, which is apparently half a dozen, but this was only one type of unit. There were probably several, so chances are it was likely more. So, according to Possum, the only number we really have of the number of Reichsguard that Gotrek cut through is at the very least half a dozen.
So, is that like, is this intentionally told in a method that's like vague? Like, is their meeting a very like kind of fairy tale type thing where like you don't know exactly how much was happening there, or is it like actually recounted correctly?
It does feel like it is like specifically a little vague sometimes, because a lot of this is them like, oh yeah, they're in like a tavern, they're retelling the story, they're drinking ale while they retell it. So I think it's you kind of get that vibe of like, oh yeah, you're just sitting around a fire with a brew and they're just kind of remembering what they remember. Maybe some of the little details are off, but that's because I'm fucking drunk, So I think it is actually like intentionally vague and without like specifics sometimes.
Okay. It does seem like it's very like in an orator's tale. Like it's very oration based, right? So
yep.
I wasn't quite sure, but okay, that makes sense.
Oh, look, Shai did the calculations for you, Bricky.
Oh, okay. So by my calculation, to get from Dwarf Lands to Altdorf, Gotrek had to travel about 1,200 miles.
There you go.
Okay. I mean, how did you calculate that?
Yeah, how did you calculate that, Shai? Good work though. That's a long walk. I mean,
did you just take like the fictional version of Europe to Asia kind of thing there? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, because the
okay.
fantasy. Yep. That's probably the only way to really do it. That's fair.
All right, that works. Hell yeah.
So afterwards, while the riot is kind of like calming down, Gotrek and Felix are kind of chilling in a tavern, getting drunk out of their fucking gourd. And the more Felix is talking with Gotrek about his life, where he'd been, what he'd been up to, the fact that he's a slayer, his axe, all that cool stuff, Felix is like, damn, Gotrek, like you've seen some stuff, you've done some stuff, and man, I bet I could write a damn fine book about the trials and tribulations of your life. Not only that, I bet the book would be so good And your life is so interesting that this book's gonna get me back into the University of Altdorf, which is crazy to me to think about because, like, I don't know how drunk Felix was, but at this point, he has murdered a student, he has incited massive riots, is now accessory and accomplice to the murder of at least half a dozen Reichsguard. I don't think any book you can write is going to clear your name and get you back into the university, but I guess let's let Felix dream.
Did he incite the riots, or I thought he was just part of the riots?
I mean, he was the one that was going around with petitions and starting protest marches, so
yeah,
he kind of started them.
I mean, I guess petitions and protesting is one thing. Inciting the riots, all right, whatever. It's fine.
Well, he had a big part in it. Let's put it that way. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, anyway.
Fair enough.
So at this point, Felix is like, look, I promise to you, Gotrek, that from this day until the day you find the sweet release of death that a slayer craves, I will chronicle and record all of our adventures, all of your deeds, and everything that we do. And when someone makes a promise like that to a dwarf, there's only one way to seal the deal. Gotrek takes out his knife, they both cut their hands, and they make, boom, the blood oath handshake. And they are now bonded by blood until the day Gotrek finds the glorious death that will wipe the slate clean and end his miserable life as a slayer. I shouldn't say miserable life, but you get the idea.
Of course. Right, and he can't wait to end his life as a slayer. 23 books later.
Well, as the discussion always comes up when people talk about, oh, Gotrek is such a good slayer, and it's like, no, actually, he's a real bad slayer. As far as being a slayer is concerned, finding the axe of the god of war himself was probably one of the worst things that happened to Gotrek. Not only is he a great warrior, he has one of the strongest axes in dwarven lore. Good luck killing him. Good luck finding death, buddy.
So it's basically just, I mean, he's really good at the slaying parts.
He sure is. He's, as far as killing stuff is concerned, he's the bee's knees.
Damn, okay.
But this is basically how Gotrek and Felix meet. This is where, why, and how they journey together. This is their beginning. And as we said, there are 23 books about the stuff these two do together. So there's no damn way we can go over it all. So I'm going to hit the story that happens sort of maybe directly after this, because after all this stuff happens, it's like, so what do they do now? Like, I mean, Gotrek is on the run because, so here's the story. Here's what happened, because the duo were naturally, like I said, a little worried about their status as fugitives. Like I said, Felix has killed people. He's being blamed for the window tax riot. Gotrek, as we have said, he has murdered numerous Reichsguard knights. That's a pretty bad thing. So the two are like, man, we gotta lay low. We gotta get out of Dodge. Let's take a coach together and let's just try and, lay low. So they're in the stagecoach and they're kind of fleeing. And Gotrek, aside from being one of the most savage slayers and warriors to ever exist, is, again, he's kind of got the temperament of a dwarf. And he can come off a little rough around the edges. And he is really, really quick to argue with people and say some kind of demeaning things. And apparently this is exactly what he does with the stagecoach driver. He just starts really kind of sticking it to the stagecoach driver, and also...
so he's from Jersey.
Yes! Gotrek, canonically, is from New Jersey. Exactly.
Got it. Okay, I get it now.
And so aside from just really reaming the stagecoach driver, at some point he decides, you know what? I'm going to make some demeaning comments about your wife. And so he starts laying into his wife, and the stagecoach driver's like, you know what? I'm sick of your shit. Both of you, get the fuck out of my coach. Your asses are gone here. And these are sort of the first lines about that from the book. So this is Gotrek. Damn all manling coach drivers and all manling women, Gotrek Gurnisson muttered, adding a curse in Dwarvish. You did have to insult the Lady Isolde, didn't you? Felix Jaeger said peevishly. As things are, we're lucky they didn't just shoot us, if you can call it lucky, to be dumped in the Reichwald on Geheimnisnacht Eve. We paid for our passages. We were just as entitled to sit inside as her. The drivers were unmanly cowards, Gotrek grumbled.
So I'm going to take an assumption that Gotrek is constantly like picking fights and shit talking, and Felix is constantly being like, "That's just my friend. Don't worry about him."
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, kind of a little bit, kinda. But so at this point, like they said, they are stuck in a forested area called the Reichwald. And as they said in the quote, this is like the worst time to be stranded in a random-ass forest because it is the Geheimnisnacht Eve. And so that's sort of like your Halloween type deal. And that big, ugly green moon, Morsleb, is looming. The one with the big face that's made out of warpstone.
Oh, the Majora's Mask one.
Exactamundo. And this night is also particularly dangerous because sort of like the veil between the normal realm and chaos gets thin. It gets thinner. And so who knows what's lurking around at night? Maybe chaos, maybe demons, maybe the undead. Who knows? And their luck doesn't get a whole lot better because Felix is feeling pretty sick. You know, he's got kind of a headache, he's feeling kind of ill, and, you know, I read that he maybe had been feeling the start of this during the riots, but man, he's feeling a little green around the gills. And not only that, Gotrek is getting really antsy. The man hasn't killed in a little while, and he is getting really restless and really bloodthirsty to the point where literally he just starts yelling at the forest. He's like, I thought it was Geheimnisnacht Eve. Give me a challenge to kill with me axe. And he's just yelling for something to come out. And wouldn't you know it, a black stagecoach comes out of nowhere. And it is tearing down on them. Felix barely had enough time to just jump out of the way into a pile of leaves. Gotrek, I'm assuming, very swiftly dodges it. But after this thing almost runs them off the road, Gotrek is like frothing at the mouth. This stagecoach almost ran them over, and Gotrek is like, okay, I found the thing I want to kill. Oh boy, did I find it. And he's just like, oh. So they start going off to hunt this ominous black stagecoach. And so as they continue into the forest, they find this small roadside tavern called the Standing Stone Inn. And initially, Gotrek doesn't want to stop because he's like, I have a need to kill. But Felix, again, feeling really unwell, feeling really sick, and he's like, come on, man, can we at least, let's just take a break here, stay the night. I'm not feeling great. Like, come on, man. And even though it looks a little abandoned, little ramshacked, Gotrek wasn't gonna stay, but Felix is like, you know, tavern's got ale. And Gotrek's like, oh, maybe I could use a break. The specific quote is, we've lost the coach. Might as well get a bed for the night, Felix suggested. He looked warily at the smaller moon Morsleb. The sickly green glow was stronger. I do not like being abroad under this evil light. You're a feeble manling, cowardly too. They'll have ale. On the other hand, some of your suggestions are not without merit. Watery though human beer is, of course.
That's very typical.
Yeah, very, very dwarf. Very Gotrek. And so when they tried again, and everything is, again, kind of boarded up, kind of looks like no one's even there, but they can see there's several, like, horses and ponies and stuff making noises in the stable, so they know somebody's got to be in there. And when Felix goes knocking, there are people in there, but they aren't about to let anything in. It's Geheimnisnacht Eve. They're just like, you could be chaos. You could be a monster. We're not going to let you in there. And while they weren't going to let Felix in, Gotrek is over there kind of waving around the mythical rune axe, and he's kind of like, I will break the door down with this axe, and I will start hacking away at stuff. And suddenly they're like, you know what, come right on in. He's got the town key known as a big fucking axe. And so they're allowed into the tavern, and they start to just drink their fill, and they learn a little something about the Black Stagecoach, and how they've heard rumblings that the owner of the Black Stagecoach has been performing some really shady, dark sort of chaos rituals, which they're also really worried because the son of the innkeeper has actually gone missing. A couple nights ago, son of the innkeeper went missing. And so Gotrek's like, oh, hell yeah, cultists? That sounds like something I can kill. Already wanted revenge on the Black Stagecoach for almost running us off the road. Now you're gonna let me kill cultists too? Let's go! And so Gotrek and Felix head into the forest in search for the Black Stagecoach and the cultists, and I guess hopefully the innkeeper's son. And while they're searching, Felix decides to ask Gotrek, like, hey, Gotrek, what was your past like? How did you become a slayer? What brought you to become a slayer? And if you remember our episode on slayers, or on dwarves, they really don't like talking about how they became a slayer because it's their greatest shame. It's so shameful that they are trekking out to die for it to sort of redeem their family's name.
Right.
And so Gotrek, when he hears this question, oh man, he looks like a volcano that is about to erupt in a storm of murder. But he holds himself back and he tells Felix, like, you know what? You're young, you're stupid, and we've made a blood oath to travel together, so look, I won't kill you for asking me that, but if you were any other man, I would rip you to shreds and leave nothing left. And the two continue searching the forest. They start hearing like these really sinister, crazed laughter in the distance. And it's just this really creepy laughter. And they continue following it. And as they continue following it, they encounter a mutant. Gotrek is so ready to kill that this mutant doesn't stand a chance. I'm not even sure the mutant gets a chance to flinch before Gotrek cuts its goddamn head off. So Gotrek and Felix like, you know what? We're probably on the right path. Mutant just tried to jump us. Let's continue in this direction. I hear some more ritual chanting. We hear some more laughter. And finally, they come upon like this really big congregation of like mutants. And they're doing these weird rituals and they're praising Slanesh. It's a pleasure cult. It's a cult of pleasure. And there are drums banging away. There are heads on pikes, human heads, mutant heads, beastmen heads, just animal heads. It's so chaos. Oops, all chaos.
It's the funny night. So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it is the funny night. But what they also saw was the Black Stagecoach was parked among the cultists performing their rituals. The doors to the Black Stagecoach burst open, and out comes a hooded man carrying an infant child. And the hooded man places the child on the altar as the ritual chanting and drumming and excess seem to get faster and faster, and it reaches a fever pitch. Hooded man takes out a knife and holds it above his head. This man is about to sacrifice a baby. But of course, Gotrek and Felix are like, no, we can't let that happen. And they jump into action and they begin just cutting through all of these cultists in order to try to save the child. And Gotrek is big axe, big kill. You don't stand a chance. But Felix holds his own. And they fought very valiantly. But man, they were so severely outnumbered. Gotrek is so overwhelmed that like he is covered in mutant bodies. Like you can't even see him anymore. There's so many guys piled on top of him. And Felix, he's just as overwhelmed. Again, he's holding out. He's doing the best he can. And so the hooded man starts the ritual up again, because obviously all this bloodshed and fighting kind of makes him stop. He raises his knife high again. There's this mist that kicks up that starts to take the shape of a demon. And Felix is just like, God, I really want to save the child, but there's no way I can get to that person. Gotrek is completely swarmed. So Felix does the only thing he can think to possibly stop this cultist. He says a little prayer to mighty Sigmar, and then he takes a throwing knife and he just chucks it. And I have to believe this is like one of those like COD compilation videos where the match starts.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say this is going to look exactly like the end of Modern Warfare 2 where he throws it at General Shepard. God damn it.
Yep. He chucks the knife in the air. God, I hope it's a cross-map kill. And oh man. And wouldn't you know it, after saying a little prayer to Sigmar, wham! The dagger thumps right across the throat of the hooded cultist, killing him instantly. With the head cultist dead, the mutants begin to flee in terror. Gotrek is finally kind of like free, because a lot of the mutants are fleeing, and you can kind of see like just this maelstrom of blood and body parts and guts start flying up everywhere, and Gotrek is like, I made it! And he just starts, once he gets out of that, he just starts murdering everything around him. It doesn't matter if they're fleeing beastmen. It doesn't matter if they're demons that decided to stay. He's just making a gory, bloody mess of the bodies until the last of the cultists and beastmen were either dead or were lucky enough to flee. And as they rescue the child from the altar, they notice that the hood has fallen from the man's face. They can finally see who the cultist is. And the cultist was the innkeeper's missing son. And the witch that was next to the innkeeper's son, who was also helping with the rituals, was his dead wife. And Felix, seeing this and realizing that's the innkeeper's son, looked back to Gotrek and simply said, you know, I don't think we'll be going back to that inn anytime soon. So that's sort of how that story ends. And again, that's just one of many stories involving Gotrek and Felix. And as we said at the beginning of the episode, I'm sure we can do an innumerable amount of episodes on their escapades, but seeing as how the script at this point is, 7 pages, I feel like this is like a good opening look at Gotrek and Felix. Though Possum wants me to remind people from the Skaven episode that Thankful, again, is basically an arch nemesis of the duo, constantly encounters them. For those of you who want something a bit more cartoonish story-wise, Possum says that Skaven Slayer is essential. For example, in one moment in the book, Thankful orchestrates the death of a Skaven warlord that was set to replace him during the invasion of Nuln, and this is how Thankful broke the news to the Skaven. "Lament, Skaven! Tragic news!" Thankful said, and even the coughing stopped. "Mighty warlord Vimic Scab is dead, killed in a terrible accident involving a loaded crossbow and an exploding donkey. We will have the traditional 10 heartbeats of silence to mark the return of his soul to the horned rat." And immediately, all the Skaven started talking amongst themselves, and, that's sort of the shenanigans you expect when Thankful is involved with Gotrek and Felix. So this is
it kind of sounds like Gotrek and Felix are constantly like fighting things that they have absolutely no business fighting.
Yeah. And somehow winning because, of course, Gotrek, you got to find a way out of it somehow. They're notorious.
I don't know if I doubt you have an answer for this, but I'm sure the comments in the chat will. Okay, this is a reference that you might be surprised. I'm getting a little like vibe that there's situations in which this will turn into a Rock and Revy situation from Black Lagoon. Where
an anime reference.
I know. Because I'm kind of like Gotrek kind of obviously has the same like drinking and fighting and stuff, And Felix always seems like the more timid of the group. But I do get a genuinely good feeling that eventually, occasionally, Felix might kind of like get really pissed off and go sicko mode and just like absolutely go on a tear because his life has changed so substantially. I don't know. It's a theory I have.
Yeah, I mean, so far from what I've seen, Felix will absolutely hold his own in a fight. Like if they get into a brawl, he'll do okay. He'll do all right. I mean, he's no Gotrek, who is, but he does pretty well for himself. So he's maybe, I don't know if timid is the right word for Felix. I kind of get what you mean, but I don't know if timid is how I would describe him.
He seems like more than anything, Felix is the kind of person who just has to do all the talking.
Definitely Felix needs to do the talking and sort of needs to smooth things over when Gotrek gets a little too blunt and a little too... All right, everybody calm down. Let's let cooler heads prevail. You know, hey, I'll talk us through this.
It's like bard fighter type person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's what we've got so far for today on Gotrek and Felix. So hopefully it was up to par. And sorry if your favorite story or limerick or battle or Gotrek
23 books worth.
Yeah, 23 books worth. I'm sure your favorite probably didn't make it, but you know, as a top-down sort of introduction to Gotrek and Felix, I'm feeling pretty good.
I mean, if we did an episode on Gaunt's Ghosts, we would have a substantially similar problem.
Oh, yeah. Also, Shy said, if people demand it, we can do more. So what you're saying is we're going to do more of their stories.
I mean, it's either that or it's like we do, we just do it as a book club.
I guess that's true. We could technically do a fantasy book club where we just every now and then do a Gotrek and Felix book.
Top 10 insane Gotrek and Felix stories. Wait, and we do like a red arrow in a circle. Yes! On the thumbnail. Yes.
And the book cover tier list is over onto the side with the arrow in the circle, right?
Wait, 15 signs that you are a yogurt male. Is it more powerful than alpha? And it's just the image of Gotrek.
Oh no. Well, that's what you have to look forward to, everyone. I hope you had a good one. Any parting words, Bricky?
No, you know what? It's actually like I want to call it maybe generic, but it is exactly. I was surprised at how simple that story is. Mm-hmm. It is literally like the brash, brazen dwarf, and the who gets into trouble a lot, but he's a really, really good fighter, and the rich kid that ends up becoming more than that. And he is the one who has to do all the talking and get them out of various adventures. I mean, it sounds like a classic D&D-esque story.
I was about to say, it does seem like just the classic D&D, because you always have the player that's like, yeah, I'm going to be a 8-foot tall barbarian, or like, oh, I'm going to be a stout dwarf, and, my whole goal is to just fight and kill stuff. And then you always have, like, I don't want to say you have a theater kid being like, the bard, and they're just like really, they're okay at fight. Yeah, it does have that classic D&D vibe, right?
Yeah, and it really does. And Shy makes a good point. Like a lot of the base characters in like classic original trilogy Star Wars are not particularly overly interesting, but they're in fascinating adventures and situations, and the writing is decent. I mean, it literally is like Star Wars is literally farm kid and like wizard mentor and scummy guy with his dog, aka Chewbacca. Like it's not anything extremely fancy, but it is, it is basically like it's the situations they're in. Like, oh, but what if they got stuck in a moon-sized space station?
In a Death Star. I love that you boiled Han and Chewie down to scummy guy and his dog.
Well, I mean, it's like, does he bite? Yeah, he do bite.
He sure do. Can you understand him? No. Do he bark? He do be barking, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I say, I wanted to joke about Felix would seduce a dragon, but he did seduce a vampire lady.
Oh, wow. Who is that?
That vampire lady just looks like Ciri from Witcher.
Oh, that's true. That does look like Ciri, but with just like deep red eyes. That.
Well, a little bit of that.
I like her. She's dripped out. She looks fierce. Yeah.
She is Eureka Magdova Strokov. Oh God. Kislev vampire lady. Okay, well, good. Hell yeah, Felix. Good on you, man.
Hell yeah, man. That's those are some sweet words. If you manage to seduce her.
I thought you were gonna say, man, there's just some sweet words if you actually manage to say them, and I was like, the hell.
That's true. I mean, it is a Kislev vampire lady. She would just as soon it's like, oh hell.
No, it wasn't that. It was more the fact that I butchered the pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's look at that thing.
Yeah,
look at that name.
Yeah. Anywho, it's a good stuff. I'm actually kind of curious. I think we should do one of the book clubs. I think we should do one of the episodes for a book club.
Okay. We'll ask Possum which one is like the best go-to. Like you have to read this book to really this is like the infamous Gotrek and Felix books, and we'll do that for a book club. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, sweet. Well, Gotrek and Felix, everybody, thank you for stopping by and listening or watching. Nice, simple fantasy adventure book on its way. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you remember to read some yourself, because that's half the point. Get into it from us, not get into something from us, not entirely by us.
Hell yeah. Thanks for being here. See you next time, brother.
I'm gonna go yell at that dude whose pancreas doesn't work.